Hey everyone, welcome, I'm MisterBo, and in today's video I thought I'd go over the creator class system, the armory and the laboratory in Call of Duty Black Ops 4 Zombies, because, well, it's changed quite a bit from previous zombie iterations, and it might be a bit confusing to some of you. So when you first load up zombies, you'll be greeted with this screen. Firstly, let's go to the armory, because that's the thing that's been in previous zombie games. So here you'll have every single weapon that you can either buy off a wall or is in a mystery box. This doesn't include special weapons like the ray gun or the blundergat. This just includes your standard weapons. Now what you can do here is you can go into these weapons when you have unlocked them and you can actually customize them, meaning you can add different attachments and different camos. So when you do pick it up from the wall or from the box, you have those attachments already on it. So let's move on to the creator class section, which has got the biggest overhaul here. So when you enter this page, there's a lot of things going on. The first thing to notice is that we have two versions of this page. We have the Ether story version and we have the Chaos story version. Now nothing really changes here except for the special weapon. This is basically a way for you to create two versions of your loadouts. One for when you're playing Blood of the Dead or any maps that include the original crew, and then the other for when you're playing the new story with the new crew, for instance on the maps 9 and Voyage of Despair. Now within each of these you also have separate loadouts, so you can create multiple versions of different setups. In the Aether story you have Devil Dog, you have Kaminari, Doctor, Exterminator, Raptor and Jester, and then in the Chaos story you have Guardian, Berserker, Tempest, Warlord, Bulwark and Rocket, and these are again just names, they don't mean anything, and you'll unlock your final two loadouts at level 27 and level 43. So from there, let's take a look at the perks, because I think this is the thing that's got the biggest overhaul from previous zombie iterations. So when you enter your perk screen, you'll see the 4 perk machines that'll be on the map. Now these don't change locations, these perk machines will always be in the same place. The thing is, you can indicate what perk you get from which perk machine. So if we click the first perk machine here, we can then choose which perk we want on it. So I want Electric Burst. We can then click the second perk machine and I can pick Stamina. The third perk machine I want Quick Revive, and that's already on there. And then the final one, maybe I want a random perk, so I can pick Secret Source, which will give me a random perk not assigned to another slot. Now in total we have 14 perks, some which are familiar and some which are completely new. For instance, we've got Time Slip, equipment cooldown rates are increased, the mystery box and Pack-a-Punch weapons appear faster, and you have greatly reduced trap and fast travel cooldowns. We then have a classic, which is Quick Revive, shorter delay before regenerating health and increased regeneration rate, you can revive players faster. We then have Death Perception, see nearby enemies through walls, receive screen indicators when enemies approach the player from off screen. Stamina Up, increase movement and sprint speed, stamina regenerates faster. We then have Electric Burst, which is basically Electric Cherry, reloading causes an electric discharge that damages and stuns nearby enemies. The more empty the magazine, the stronger the damage. Dying Wish, instead of entering the last stand, the player goes into Berserk mode for 9 seconds. While Berserk, they are invulnerable and melee damage is greatly increased. Afterwards, the player is left with 1 health. The cooldown increases with every use. You then have Stone Cold Stronghold. Standing your ground creates a defensive circle which boosts damage and armor over time while inside. You have Victorious Tortoise. Shields block damage from all directions when held. When a shield breaks, it will trigger a defensive explosion. You have Deadshot Dealer, which is basically Deadshot Daiquiri. Aiming down sight snaps to the enemy's head, reduced hip spread and recoil when firing, removes scope away. You have Bandolier Bandit, which is carry increased ammo stock. You then have Winter's Wail, which is basically Widow's Wine. When hit by a melee attack, generate a frost explosion that will freeze or slow enemies nearby. Player can store 2 charges. You then have Mule Kick, which is basically carry 3 weapons, and you have PhD Slider, which is PhD Flopper returning, but instead of flopping on people, you slide into people and they will explode. And then finally you have the Secret Source, which is put on any random perk. You don't know what you're going to get, it's going to be random when you drink it. So you can put these on in any order, and it doesn't really matter until you get to this final perk machine that says modifier on it. Now each perk not only has the perk associated with it, but it also has a modifier which will give you an extra boost. For instance, with Quick Revive, you gain a movement speed boost after heal regeneration starts, and reviving grants both players full health and a movement speed boost. Taking a look at another one like Electric Cherry, reloading stores an electric charge on the player's melee weapon. The next melee attack empowers the weapon to shock enemies for a limited time. The more empty the magazine, the longer the time. So in order to activate this modifier, you need to make sure when you're in game you get the other 3 perks first, and you get the perk with the modifier on it last. That will then activate that modifier, giving you that bonus. So there is a little bit of a tactic and strategy in which order you get your perks now in game. You need to think to yourself, I want the modifier for Death Perception on, I put it on that perk machine with the modifier, so I need to get my other 3 perks first and then get that one last. So that's how the perk machines work, and it's pretty much the same for the Chaos story as well, except the perk machines are of gods, Danu, Ra, Zeus and Odin instead of the classic perk machines. From there we can then take a look at a new feature called Talismans, and these are basically extra modifiers on top of everything else. You have common, rare, legendary and epic. A common one is something like gain an extra Wraith fire charge, or even start the match with an SMG. The rare ones include things like the Major Amulet of the Second Circle, start the game with the Ra/Cola perk, so you'll start the game with whatever perk you've put on that perk machine. With legendary you have some talismans, meaning that your perks can never be lost, so if you get the Danu or the Brew perk and you go down and then you get revived, you'll still have that perk. And then in epic you have things like start the match with an LMG, gain the modifier for the Odin/Tonic perk when you acquire it, even if you don't have the first 3. So that basically cancels out the order of the perks you need to get. You can pick up that perk at the beginning of the game and get the modifier, you don't need to worry about the other 3 perks. And then you have start the match with a level 3 special weapon. So talismans are pretty useful, and you will unlock them via the laboratory, which we'll get to in a second. So we then have weapons along the right. Firstly, we have the special weapons. Now these will change between which story you are playing. In the Aether story, we have the Hellfire, which is a flamethrower. We have Overkill, which is a death machine. We have the Path of Sorrows, which is a samurai sword. And then we have the Ragnarok DG5. For the Chaos storyline, we have the Cakrams of Vengeance, we have the Hammer of Valhalla, we have the Scepter of Ra, and we have the Viper and Dragon. Now each of these does a different thing, and each of them has 3 different stages. Now in order to unlock the other stages of the weapon, you basically need to use that weapon in game. You'll be able to use the weapon by getting kills, your bar will charge up, you'll then be able to use both the bumper buttons on your controller to activate the weapon, and then getting kills with that weapon will slowly allow it to upgrade to stage 2 and then stage 3. After that, you then have your equipment, which includes your grenades. You have things like the frag grenade, the acid bomb, the claymore, the wraith fire, and then a sentry gun. And then you have your start weapon. So you have a few different pistols and shotguns, you have a tactical rifle, and you have a submachine gun. Again, these are all unlocked by leveling up. Different ones are available at different levels. Then if we go back onto the main screen, over on the left you have your elixirs, and these are pretty much gobblegums from Black Ops 3. So you have your classics, you have your common, your rare, your legendary, and your epic. Your classic are the ones that you will unlock via leveling up, all the way up to level 39. You will always have the classic ones available to you no matter what, but when we get up to common, these are what you'll be getting from the laboratory, and you'll only have a certain amount of uses depending on how many you have. For instance, we have Dead of Nuclear Winter, spawn a nuke power up. Now I've managed to get this from the laboratory, but I only have 1 to use, so if I equip it and I use it in a game, then I no longer have that. In rare you have things like, instead of losing health, you lose points. The amount lost increases each time you are hit until max amount is hit. If you have 0 points, you die. We then have legendary ones, which include Undead Man Walking. slow down all zombies to shambling speeds. And then in Epic you have things like all players in spectate, so all players who have downed and died will spawn in immediately. So some pretty powerful things here. And again, you can only use however many you have in your inventory. So join the party here, I've only got one and I can equip that, but if I use it, then I don't have that anymore. So that is the creator class system and that is how it works. If we back out here, we can then go to the laboratory. So here is basically Dr. Monty's workshop from Black Ops 3 but renamed and using elixirs this time. So you have 3 concoctions here. You have Carbon Combo, which requires 30 points to buy, and it gives you 3 random elixirs and a chance of a talisman. You then have the Argon Array, which requires 45 points, 1 guaranteed rare or better elixir, 2 random elixirs and a chance of a talisman. And then finally for 75 points you have the Palladium package, which is 1 guaranteed rare or better elixir, 2 random elixirs and a guaranteed talisman. So that is how you get your elixirs and your talismans, pretty much luck based. So as you can see here, I'm going to get myself an Argon Array and you'll see the elixirs that I get from them. So there you have it. That is the brand new zombie systems. That is the laboratory, the armory and the create a class system. When I first logged on it looked pretty complicated, so I thought I'd do this video maybe in case you don't know what you're doing, how you get that certain modifier on the perks, what the talismans are, how the weapons work, how the elixirs work. It can be pretty confusing if you're new to zombies. So hopefully this video has helped you out. If you enjoyed it, feel free to give the like button a big old hug, subscribe for more gaming content and coverage, boop that bell icon to be notified when my future videos go live. Thanks for hanging out with me and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye bye.